Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Marietta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new TEAM therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hello, David, and welcome to all of our listeners around the world. This is the Feeling Good podcast, episode 393. And we're very
Rhonda, I have to interrupt you and scold you. You forgot something important.
Did I?
All of our listeners from around the galaxy.
Oh, yes, from around the galaxy. I forgot those spaceship.
We don't want the aliens to feel discouraged or unwanted.
Right. Or excluded, correct. Okay, aliens, you are welcome. And I'm talking about the aliens from Mars and the moon. So today we have a really special guest, as all of our guests are very special. Her name is Marina Dyck, and Marina is a clinical counselor who is in private practice in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, Canada. And Marina has been in private practice since 2016. She specifically works with individuals and families who are coping with trauma, PTSD, anxiety, depression, and relationship issues. And in Marina's treatment approach, she combines TEAM-CBT and the whole person approach, which allows her clients to understand themselves better and to gain insight into why they are the way they are. Marina is absolutely dedicated to empowering her clients to experience healing and freedom in relationship to themselves and to others. And she's very excited to share her journey in training people to sleep better using the TEAM-CBT model. So today our topic is using the TEAM-CBT structure and model to overcome insomnia. And Marina, we really want to thank you so much for coming onto our podcast.
Thank you, Rhonda and Dr. Burns. My pleasure being here.
Yeah, we're really thrilled to have you.
Okay,
want to learn from you.
Yeah, we definitely do. And I thought I would start off by reading this endorsement from Paula. And Paula wrote to you, "Hi, Dr. Burns. I've been listening to your Feeling Good podcast for over 2 years. I've had anxiety and depression for over 30 years, and I've gone to different psychologists with short-term relief. In December 2022, my depression was really bad. So I Googled podcasts for depression and anxiety, and the Feeling Good podcast came up, which is when I started listening to it, and I got hooked. Then I bought and read the book Feeling Good, the new mood therapy, and I started to feel better. At the end of the book, there was information about what you want, how you could get a 15-minute free consultation with the team therapist. I completed the consultation and I found my absolutely amazing team therapist, Audrey Koji, and who has been on this podcast. She was on a podcast with Sunny Choi. And I've been working with the team approach with Audrey, which includes a lot of daily and weekly homework. I've learned so many skills to deal with my negative thoughts. We've tried so many methods. We try one method, and if that doesn't completely crush my negative thoughts, we try another method. My life has completely changed from almost daily suffering to daily joy. I want to thank you, Dr. Burns, so much for all you do for everyone. And Rhonda, you're amazing as well." Signed, Paula. And I for sure wanted to put in that plug for Audrey Koji because she's an awesome team therapist. And it's really great to hear an endorsement, both for you, David, for your books and for this podcast and for the TEAM-CBT that you've created, and for a specific therapist, Audrey Kojo.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paula. We really appreciate your kind and generous comments, and those of so many of you who listen and write in with questions or testimonials. It really means a lot to us, because when we do the podcast, we're kind of thinking how this is going to be helpful to people, but we never know until we actually get your testimonials, your emails. So you're an important part of our lives, an important part of our mission. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So one other thing about Marina is that she was in our Wednesday International Team Training Group for many years. She taught the newbie group, the group that we ask people to take when they first start learning TEAM-CBT for us. And she is a level 4 certified team trainer and therapist. So, we've missed you in our Wednesday group, Marina, and glad that you've launched into your own practice.
Thank you, Rhonda.
So tell us how you use TEAM-CBT for insomnia.
Well, to begin with, it was actually pretty accidental. And as I was attending the Wednesday group with you and trying to implement and learn the skills, as Richard Lamb suggested, the best way to learn the skills is to start teaching them. So I started the practice group on Fridays, and we went through every single step by step, and snail kind of pace, at the snail pace. And when we ran out of topics, we just decided to apply them. And I said, well, how about insomnia? How about teaching people how to sleep using the TEAM-CBT? So it actually happened to be accidental. And then it kind of brought up a lot of interest in people. And then I hosted several sessions of free training on treating insomnia with TEAM-CBT, kind of evolved the process a little bit, and then created that 6-hour course to aid therapists with helping clients to treat insomnia using the same model. So pretty excited to share that with you. And I'm just wondering where you would like me to begin.
Well, let me ask you one thing. Let's say I'm a therapist listening to this podcast, and I said, well, I need some tools for treating insomnia. How would I get a hold of Marina and see if I could attend one of her 6-hour classes for therapists?
Okay, all right. Well, currently it can be found on Marina Dyck /Podia, PODIA.com. And I will add after today.
Okay, slow down now, because I'm demented and elderly, and I couldn't get that down in time, and I'm sure a lot of our readers couldn't either. You said
Correct.
Marina. Where do I go next?
So Marina Dyck, Marina
D-Y-K.
DYCK.
Oh, D-Y-C-K. Okay. D-Y-C-K. Mm-hmm.
.Podia, PODIA.
See there, no one would have gotten that. .PODIA. Podia.
.com.
Okay. And what does the Podia stand for?
Podia is the platform that it's like a hosting platform for me to, it's like a library for my courses.
Oh, cool. Great.
There will be
Marina Dyck, D-Y-C-K, all one word, M-A-R-I-N-A, Marina Dyck .podia, PODIA.com, C-O-M.
Yeah, correct.
And since it's on anxiety, could we spell it .calm, C-A-L-M?
Correct, C-O-M, just to make it perfect, right?
I interrupted you. Continue. Sorry. Get back in your flow.
All right.
You're off to a great start.
Well, and just as we all know that, this, we're talking about CBT, as the motto of CBT is, or the idea of CBT, if you change the way you think, you can change the way you feel. So is when treating insomnia with TEAM-CBT. The motto is very similar, but slightly modified. If you change the amount of time you think, or if you change what you think, or if you change how you think before the night, or you can change your thinking before the night, you can also change the way you sleep. Since rumination is one of the one of the common concepts of why people cannot sleep. And since I work mostly with trauma, anxiety, and depression, I ask clients most of the time the question about the sleep or the eating habits is always on my intake form. So, for example, going through my intake, I will ask the clients how much sleep do they generally get, and I will ask them do they have any trouble of falling asleep, staying asleep, or do they feel like their sleep is restorative? And then I will generally ask them for amount of sleep. How many hours do they sleep? And that kind of gives me an indication. And I will ask them, what is the common general problem why you cannot sleep? And most people will tell me one common phrase: I cannot turn my brain off. Mm. And a few people will say, well, I just have bad habits, but that will be like 10%, or go on my phone or watch TV or something like this. But it will be like under 10%. 90% of clients struggling with anxiety, PTSD, depression, even relationship challenges, they will all report that the number one reason they cannot sleep is rumination, or they can't turn their brain off. And of course, there's other reasons for not sleeping as per se, but what TEAM-CBT for insomnia is designed for is to help people how to turn their thinking brain off. And as I also just give them a general explanation of what insomnia is, and that's specifically that sleeping disorder, which is when they have trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or experience some non-restorative sleep despite having an opportunity to sleep. And of course, I explain it can be just acute insomnia that lasts about a week to a few weeks, or it can become chronic when it happens at least like 3 nights a week for 3 months and more. And I teach them a little bit in the training about the primary causes of such as stress, environmental factors such as noise, light, temperatures, changes in sleep schedule, and, as well as teaching them about the poor sleep habits, and also secondary causes such as various medical conditions, pain, mental health disorders such as like anxiety, depression, or PTSD, and specifically focusing on that concept of rumination and turning their brain off for the night. And when I am talking to clients, I do explain significantly the role of sleep and its impact on mental health, capacity to regulate, to stay cognitive, to stay clear, to be able to have not just mood control, but also be able to make clear, capacity to make decisions clearly, and also the impact on memory and consolidation, which happens during the night, impact on their obesity, as some research indicates that up to 89% of children are obese if they sleep, risk the chance of obesity if they sleep under 5 hours, and in adults it's about 55%. So it is as well as complications to their health, just as the immune system restores during the night. So I give them just a little bit of understanding and a lot of and the importance that when we begin working with clients with anxiety, depression, and PTSD, whatever we are working on, restoring their sleep is like catching their breath. It's as vital as having the air. So, and then we can begin to work on the strategies of how to turn the brain off. And that's where I would introduce them the science, just the basic understanding of sleep and why it's important and how it's a natural restorative element, and they should be guarding it at all costs since it plays such a vital role in their mental health and physical well-being as well as longevity. Some interesting studies suggest, and specifically one in PubMed, that the lack of sleep, or the people who sleep less than 5 hours or 7 hours can risk, dying prematurely by 18%. So if you live 100 years, so you might die actually 20 years younger. So that's quite significant amount of time. If we would take 5 years, it maybe doesn't matter. But when I talk about 20% of your length of longevity, then I would suggest that it's pretty important. And just as we said, it's all your body rejuvenates, recalibrates, consolidates memory, produces the digestive hormones, learning hormones, and all of those, they're important. And that's why I'm so passionate about like having a structure of teaching people how to sleep with TEAM-CBT. And Rhonda, do you want to introduce the team model, or do you want me to kind of introduce that? Or yeah,
you go for it.
All right, sounds good. Well, and Dr. Burns is the originator of TEAM-CBT model, and it's a simple version, step-by-step process that allows us to have a structure in therapy, as well as working with any client on any problem. And it's an acronym, and T stands for testing. So it is pretty much imperative to treat anyone without, in healthcare, without checking their blood pressure or checking their vitals. So as checking in regards to sleep is how much actually they are sleeping from night to night. So the T stands for testing, which allows us to track, see where people are at when they come in, if the progress, how effective our sessions from start to end, and how much progress we're getting over time, as well as E stands for empathy, which every client, when they come with either insomnia or other mental health challenges or relationship challenges or grief, everyone requires empathy, so that addresses it. And A is for agenda setting or assessment of resistance. It's pretty much the portion where we set up the main groundwork or foundation of removing all the obstacles and blocks that may prevent us from getting the outcome that we so desire. And then M stands for methods, where we create a plan of intervention to and test the methods that particularly work for certain clients. So how does this look now for working with insomnia? When it comes to testing, I guess I'll go over a little bit here how it may look like. We definitely want to identify for testing their mood scales through a brief mood survey that can be accessible through Dr. Burns' website and can be purchased since it does require a license. But as well, we want to check in regards to insomnia, what type of insomnia do they actually have? Do they have trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep, or waking up too early? Or do they have a combination style where they have maybe trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, kind of like a mixed type? And then we want to ask them how many hours do they get of sleep do they get? What time do they specifically fall asleep? What time they wake up in the night if they do, and what time they wake up in the morning. So we just want to get as much detail, and you can be creative here just to ask whatever question you need, just to make sure that we can later measure if their amount of sleep has improved, if they are falling asleep sooner, if they are waking up, which the older we get, unfortunately, the more we tend to wake up in the night just because of how our body works and just simply to go to the bathroom. So how to fall asleep quicker, so we can, if we measure at the start with testing, we can definitely check the progress if they're progressing. And generally, by introducing the TEAM-CBT model and the powerful strategies, I find that clients often come back and they may report that after we have implemented some methods, it's only a matter of a week or two where they begin to regain their sleep, even an hour more. And it doesn't matter if they have been on medication or not medication, the whole concept still stands and empowers clients to deal with that concept of rumination and turning their brain off. So that's for testing part. That's how I would apply that. And then definitely would move on to empathy, since unfortunately the culture of the current world glorifies when we work a lot, when we work nonstop, when we sacrifice, when we give. And it does not want to acknowledge that people do get burned out and they do get worn out, and they may actually not be able to function. And at times, in my practice, I have seen clients who have been up for several nights, or they have only gotten a few hours of sleep, and they were to the point where they could not eat anymore. They couldn't even sleep anymore, and any amount of food that they would take, they would be throwing up.
Oh my!
They were to that point of exhaustion, and definitely when it comes to that point, and they come for anxiety, I say how much time. That my first question is, how many hours of sleep did you get last night, in the last week? And they would tell me, just 2 or 3 hours. That's a red flag. That's where I would address pretty much this insomnia first, and show them a lot of empathy and understanding and admiration for their hard work, and assuming that they have been giving too much. And especially, it can be not uncommon for people who are like therapists who are in their private practice, or any other professions who require that high demand of care, such as medical professionals, legal professionals, and so on, care aides, and so on. So that's where the empathy comes in strongly, and disarming and validating their exhaustion and the tiredness and the sense of burnout is hugely important. And that's where we can use the disarmament technique through the 5 secrets of effective communication to validate that, and also reflect those thoughts that they are telling us through thought empathy about their struggles. Additional struggles related to sleep, as well as possibly to help them identify some feelings that have been maybe not vocalized or even suppressed through the feeling empathy, and possibly share some of our own struggles, how we would feel or come to the close point of burnout or exhaustion or overwhelm, where our mind would not be able to function well or think clearly. So slightly share through I feel statements, and continue and definitely express admiration for the hard work, dedication, and as well as willingness to do this work in spite of the amount of sleep that they have lost. And through stroking or affirmations, and ask them if that is how it's been like for them through inquiry, or if they want to add some more. So that would be the point of empathy that we would require, maybe connection with a client, 15, 20 minutes up to half an hour, something like that. And then so when I use TEAM-CBT for insomnia, treating people how to sleep, it can go, for example, in critical cases like what I explained, I would actually suggest this approach first. Yeah, Dr. Burns?
I'm just thinking you're doing a beautiful job of teaching the basics of team therapy. And I'm mindful of the fact that 2/3 of our listeners are general public. And so they'll be looking to hear from you. What can I learn from Marina that will help me with my insomnia? But I just want to make sure we can allow enough time to get into that good stuff, the specifics of what therapists and patients can do, how we're going to set our racing minds at ease and so forth. I know you're heading in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, because the course, definitely the training has been created specifically for therapists to help the clients with insomnia. However, the good news, I am working and I am on the last step of method implementation for the general public. And my hope is to record and provide and to create that training and post it by the start of September. Hopefully I can edit it and finish it off in summer, because a lot of clients have requested me, and a lot of therapists as well.
Nice.
So moving on, I'm going to try to shift a little bit and focus a little bit more on implementing it for general public right now, and which will still go along with the team model, because we would move on to becoming a little bit more specific and setting up the foundation for what are we going to work with when it comes to insomnia. And that is where we want to move on to a little bit to become a little bit more specific. After we have learned the importance of sleep and the importance of addressing it and what role it plays, it's important to identify how much we sleep, and then we want to identify specifically that time or one specific night when we had difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or both. So if you are listening currently right now, you can just choose a moment where we would that the night you struggled. And the concept behind struggling in the night doesn't really matter which night you would take. The night when you couldn't turn your brain off. It can be today is Tuesday, so it can be on the weekend, it can be yesterday, it can be even last night, or whichever night. It's just like a fractal moment, which is, if we can identify one moment in time, it probably will tell us exactly what's happening every night. And then we want to identify the specific what time we went to bed and how long we've been in bed. So we want to become very specific and maybe just track it down and record it right now, as you even listening to right now, to what time did you go to bed? For example, I went to bed at 10 o'clock and I maybe was laying in bed till 1 o'clock with something like this. And then we want to identify some of the feelings I was having that went along with me tossing and turning in my bed, and as well as thoughts. And then then I would. So I'm just trying to shifting to the general public. It's a little bit.
Sounded like, first of all, you say how long you stayed in bed, like from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., and then write down what were your negative thoughts and negative feelings while you were in bed. Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yes. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to identify what thoughts we were having, right? So when we talk about TEAM-CBT model, and when some of you may have learned, so when I taught this course, one of the main questions came in is, aren't we taught to not to address or engage with our thoughts? Well, and that's what usually I've heard the ICBT teaches you, and all the other books is try to not to engage with thoughts. But the common question I've got is, from most of the people, then what do we actually do with our thoughts, and how do we disengage from our thoughts in the night? And that's where this specific training is targeting this concept. How do we disengage from our thoughts? But to disengage from them, just like in TEAM-CBT model, we all wish for a magic button, that we just magically, some magic happened and our mind is completely free and liberated from any thoughts that are there. Well, we know that there is no such magic button. But then the next question is, which most people have, and I don't think it's addressed anywhere, is how do we turn them off? So in order to turn them off, we need to know, what are we going to turn off? And that is a lot of contradiction to a lot of other theories and models that you will hear on the internet. Because from what I've been told, and from my own research, nobody teaches how to turn those thoughts off. They will teach mindfulness, yoga, meditation, but nobody has ever used the CBT model, the cognitive behavioral therapy model, to address those thoughts in the night. And it is great to listen to the session right now and specifically learn how to do it during the daytime in order to apply it in the night. So that's what we want to do. So in a session with client, we will literally identify the thoughts that we're struggling with and the feelings. And then we want to look behind the thoughts and why they were showing up. What was the importance or the urgency of the thoughts that were coming up through positive reframing? So we're actually going to look at those thoughts from a different perspective. And for example, it may be a situation where we may recognize several thoughts. Oh, I am just thinking that, I have overshared, or I should have said something differently, or I'm still worried about the conflict with my partner. And all we do is just want to capture them. And then we want to look, what do they reflect about us, who we are, in a positive and flattering way? Well, the thoughts that are related to my partner, it tells me that I'm not okay to go to bed in conflict. And I do care about relationship. When I'm thinking about what I said and overshared, actually being clear and concise and being connecting really truly matters to me. So if I am feeling like I'm going to fail on the exam, it shows that I actually care how I do on my exam, and maybe it motivates me to prepare a little bit more tomorrow. Or if I have a conflict with my partner and I'm thinking about it, it may motivate me to actually address it, and my brain doesn't want to leave me alone. So this is where I teach the clients that whatever the brain does, and this is where I introduce just a little bit of the brain science, which I totally love. And I introduce the two concepts that the brain does never do anything just to disturb us. It's designed to work in a start and finish, beginning and end, and problem solution mode. And it will bring up the spontaneous and at times excessive, those implicit thoughts in the night when the mind enters the restful state. So it will bring up the past memories, past conflicts, past challenges, planning, projection, and will do a review of all the possible options and solutions, because the analytical part begins to turn on, which is called, in other way, it's a network of different brain structures that often known as a default mode network that get activated when person gets off task. So when we're not doing anything, when the cognition or the cognitive or the task-oriented portion of the mind turns off, this subconscious part begins to turn on. And this is the part that can make us anxious, depressed, and worried, or thinking about how we have approached, because that's what it's designed to do. And it's simply.
So let me just see if I can understand so far, because I'm a general public person here wanting to get this important message. So if I'm lying in bed and I'm ruminating a conflict that I've had with my partner, and then, or I could in the daytime do this, and I've had negative thoughts. It's all her fault, and she shouldn't be like that, and she never listens, or whatever it happens to be. And then one thing we can do is do positive reframing to see what those thoughts show about me and my partner. That's actually positive, and my core values. And that if I do this, do positive reframing of my negative thoughts and feelings, my anger, my anxiety, my rumination, my whatever, then this will turn on the problem solving part of my brain, and I'll find a solution to my conflict with my partner. I'm not sure that I got that part right. I was trying to get that piece.
So what it creates, it creates the stronger connection. As soon as we name the name. It's a power of awareness, a power of naming. So when we name what is actually happening and and connect with our values and what are those thoughts doing to us, it actually engages the prefrontal cortex, so which is right like your forehead part of the brain, and it connects it with the midbrain. So that means that the stronger connection now is made, and that already scientifically it leads to self-regulation. So it doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to turn it off. It's the methods we're going to use later that will help us turn off and turn that analytical part off.
So if I'm angry with my partner and unhappy and I do positive reframing, I'll become more relaxed, and that will turn on my prefrontal cortex and its connections to the midbrain, so that I'll improve my self-regulation. Did I get that right?
Yeah, correct. So we become more capable of actually synchronizing or harmonizing the conscious brain and subconscious brain. That's the main purpose of doing the positive reframing. We synchronize two parts that we can make them work together, rather than the subconscious part is getting overstimulated and overworked, and the conscious brain feels like I just need to run away because I don't know what to deal with it and I don't have the answers for it.
Okay, now I'm a carpenter listening to this podcast, and I've had trouble sleeping, and I'm in conflict with my spouse, and lie in bed feeling kind of angry and frustrated, and I don't know what all these terms, prefrontal and self-regulation and subconscious integrating with conscious, but I want to know, what can I do to get to sleep or improve my relationship with my partner? And I'm trying to figure that out a little bit here. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed.
That's right.
I'm a simple guy.
That's right. And there's a lot of wording, that's for sure. So in the training, I will spend probably 20, 30 minutes explaining how the brain works, to understand that whenever the rumination happens, some people blame it on themselves, but to simplify it, it's the workings of your mind and of your subconscious mind. So when you are going to sleep, and although your conscious mind is only awake while you're awake, the subconscious mind does not turn off for the night. It works 24/7. And unfortunately, when we're trying to go to sleep, sometimes it becomes overactive, and that's where that rumination may come in, and we feel like we have no power or force to turn that off or close the door on that analytical part. How's that so far?
Well, I'm still, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do when I can't sleep.
Well, that's a great question, and that's where we want to go, right? So I'm also wondering how much of the team model you want me to share, but so we talked a little bit about the magic button, that we all look for that magic pill. What if instead of the magic dial, and rather than just completely turning them off, you had actually options? You had a dial, and you could just dial down that thinking to 15, 20 minutes, and maybe in the kitchen rather than in bedroom. Or you could dial it down completely, all the way down to zero, and put those thoughts on the shelf for the night and come back to them tomorrow.
Well, Marina, let's say I have this thought. I forgot to finish this report at work. And I keep thinking about the report that I forgot to finish and all the things that I need to do, and that my supervisor is going to be really upset with me. And I can't go to sleep because I'm thinking maybe I should get up and work on it. I wake, and that's what's preventing me from sleeping. Those kinds of thoughts. How could you help me with those kinds of thoughts?
That's right. So, Rhonda, I wish I could just give you a magic button, and all this thinking about your report and your relationship with supervisor completely disappear. But then I would be a little bit worried that you actually not going to complete report. So and your relationship with supervisor may actually get compromised, and moreover, the worst scenario that can happen, you might get fired. So I have a compromise for you, and I wonder if you, looking at your thoughts, of thinking about the report at work in the night, what do they show about you as an individual, as a professional, that would be admirable and actually valuable quality, or the character that we want to acknowledge?
Well, it shows I really care about my work, and I have very high standards for myself at work, and I want to help support my family. So I want to make sure that I'm doing a good enough job that I maintain my job. I don't get fired.
Yeah, so you're saying that when you have those thoughts, it shows that you care about your work and you have your high standards for yourself, as well as you want to support the family and certainly want to make sure that you're not going to get fired. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is that true to who you are, Rhonda?
Absolutely.
Is that important in life or at work, in your workplace?
Very important, yes.
Would that be something admirable for your supervisor to hear? That you care about your work and you have high standards?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can see, it's not the thoughts that are, these thoughts, as I hear you, as much as I feel for your rumination in the night and for you losing sleep, I actually gain so much admiration to hear who you are and for the high standards that you have, and how much you care about how you perform. And I would be hesitant to give you the magic button and completely, flush this down the drain or completely eliminate them, because I would be worried that you might turn into the person who you don't want to be. So what if I would offer you a little bit of a compromise? Like hearing about these qualities, would you yourself want to completely let them go?
You mean, do I want to lower my standards?
Yes.
No, I don't want to lower my standards. I mean, maybe I want to lower them a little bit so that I don't worry about them at 2 a.m.
No, correct. Okay. Well, and that's where I have a compromise for you, where imagine you had, when you're thinking about this night, and instead of like completely the magic button, which I have pretty powerful tools that can pretty much get you the results that you're looking for, but I want to negotiate a little bit. What if you had some options? What if you had a choice of actually, minimizing the amount of time you are thinking about it? You can decide how much time you can actually think about this report. Maybe you even had the choice of completely, set it off beside yourself, or put it on the shelf for the night and come back tomorrow. What if you had those options? Or maybe you could learn how to just give in to them and rather do something that you resent throughout the day, but still use this time productively. So what if you had the control over your thoughts? How would that sound to you?
That would sound really great. I would love to have control over these thoughts.
Wonderful. So, and can I ask you what time of, just again, imagine, what time were you thinking about that report? Going back to specificity.
About 2 a.m.
About 2 a.m. Wonderful. Well, guess what? I have great news for you, because I have exactly the tools that can help us get there. However, I have one little element to address. Although the tools are really powerful, they will require attention, or to achieve this outcome, and knowing how powerful the brain is when it's trying to actually just line up with your standards, I will need you to commit 15-20 minutes of your time and energy in the night for practicing the tools that we're going to learn which may include actually turning towards your thoughts, looking at them, exploring your brain's agenda, and making it a plan to address those thoughts maybe another time, or narrow them down to 15, 20-minute time block.
So you're asking me to commit to 15 to 20 minutes of practice of what you're going to teach me?
Correct. And just to be open and transparent, that it's not going to happen automatically, right? But you will need to commit to 15, 20 minutes and a night to actually turn towards them, work on them, and negotiate with your subconscious mind to either to 15, 20 minutes of thinking about it only, or to do something else, or to think about it in the morning. Would you be willing to to engage with that and commit to 15, 20 minutes of actually working on your thoughts?
Sure, absolutely. That's nothing compared to the suffering from lack of sleep.
And that's wonderful to hear. And in the beginning, it may actually take even longer. But what I have experienced with clients is by the third day, you might, if you use this tool successfully, this amount of time may decrease. And eventually you will just have to tell the phrase and use the tools, and you will be able to turn the brain off at your will to how much time do you want to ruminate, or if you don't want to ruminate. But it does take initial effort, and you may lose a few hours of sleep in the first week, but you will regain more in the second week. Does that plan sound all right to you? Would you be willing to engage with that?
Sure.
Great. Well, so now we move on. So then I'm happy to introduce a few methods to you, and we have a whole variation in TEAM-CBT. But what if I could offer you 3 top methods that I find are greatly successful for others? Would you be willing to try them with me?
Sure.
And I can, yeah, great. And I will introduce them to you as well. So the first method I want to talk about is paradoxical double standard.
Okay.
And this method, this technique is aimed at generating some self-compassion, generating self-compassion for others who may struggle with insomnia the same way you do. They can't sleep till 2 o'clock in the morning, turning and tossing, thinking about the problems or their reports as you do, and then generating compassion towards them, and then maybe turning that towards yourself. And the paradox lays in the idea that when I encourage you to not just to keep those worrisome thoughts for yourself, but also to tell them to a dearest friend of yours who may struggle with sleep. So it's a role-playing technique, which you can do it with yourself, or you can just think about it. So we're going to do it in a role play where you will just play yourself, and I will play the role of your close dear friend of yours that's similar in every way. And it works in the same place, and with the same type of a boss. It's not someone you know, but it's somebody who also does exact same responsibilities and work description as you do, and now has to prepare that report for work. He works the same hours and have the same struggles with insomnia. You can maybe even give me a name.
Okay.
Not someone you know, but someone like a clone.
How about Anne?
Anne. Okay. So I will be Anne, and I will be clone of you, and I would like you to talk to me as you would like to talk to that dear friend of yours who is Anne, and who is faced with the same sleeping problem. But first, I would like you to tell a friend exactly what you would tell yourself while you are in bed, for example, at 2 a.m. What would
So what I'm telling myself at 2 a.m, or what I would be telling Anne?
Yeah. So what I would like you to do in this case, paradoxically, tell your friend something like, "Man, Anne, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's the greatest, it's now there's lots of time for you to think about your project and report that you haven't caught up in the night.
Okay. So Anne, it's 2:00 in the morning. You didn't finish this report and maybe it's due tomorrow or a couple of days, and there's a lot of pressure to finish it. And there are a lot of people depending on you. So if you can't sleep at 2 a.m., don't toss and turn, get up and go to your office and start working on it. You don't really need that much sleep. Get the report done, and then you'll be so much happier. And then maybe if you have time, you can go back to bed for a little nap.
Yes. And how did that sound to you, Rhonda?
Kind of harsh.
Kind of harsh. And why was that harsh?
Because I wasn't very sympathetic. I was telling her basically stop whining, get up and do the work if it's bothering you so much.
Yeah. So when Anne comes to you, when I would come to you and say, Rhonda, I've been having really challenge, to sleep, and all I think is about the report. And do you think it's a good idea to consider thinking about report at 2 a.m? You would tell me, get out of bed and go and think of your report.
No, I wouldn't say that in real life. No.
And what would you tell her instead? What would you tell Anne?
I'd say, Anne, the report is not going to get written at 2 a.m. You will have plenty of time to finish the report tomorrow. Be kind to yourself and let this go now. Take a couple deep breaths, get a good night's sleep, and then in the morning you'll be rested and refreshed, and you'll have the best part of your thinking capacity available to you, and you can get right to work on the report as soon as you get to your office.
Well, Rhonda, it sounds so much nicer.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, it's great to hear that you're so empathetic, and it helps me kind of normalize. Like I haven't heard anybody, I've been putting so much pressure on myself, but I'm wondering, why do you think it's a good idea for me to take a breath and just lay it off till tomorrow? May I ask you why you think isn't a good idea to think about it at 2 a.m?
Well, I think it's a good idea to take a couple of deep breaths and relax and set the report aside, because right now getting sleep is more important for your health and to your ability to think straight than worrying about the report. Laying in bed, tossing and turning, thinking about the report isn't going to be getting the report done, but allowing yourself to sleep and will give you whatever it is that you need from your sleep to perform better in the morning when you wake up.
Well, it gives me so much relief, and just hearing all the good benefits that I could definitely enjoy if I would just lay it off for today. But I am wondering, Rhonda, if that is what you truly believe, or you're just trying to make me feel better and trying to make me feel and go to bed.
No, I really believe that.
Okay. Well, and if you believe that, Rhonda, for Anne, could something like this be true for you as well?
I hope so. I think so. So
I'm wondering, how was that like for you to talk to Anne coming out of this role play? How was it like for you?
Well, I think what I'm learning is that I'm a lot harsher to myself when I can't sleep than I am toward Anne. And it was a lot more soothing to talk to myself or to talk to Anne in a kindly way.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, so next time when you are consumed about thinking about your report at 2 a.m, if you would be willing to tell yourself what you would tell Anne.
To talk to myself the way I would talk to Anne, I think I could try that.
You could try that.
That might take some practice, but I think I could try it.
Correct. So that's kind of one of the way that we can train our brain, to turn off the rumination is, what would we tell our dearest friend who is up at 2 a.m, is struggling and worried what they said or what they have forgotten to do? What would we tell them? Would we tell them like, yeah, get out of bed and get that done now? Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't be oversharing everything, but that's just so inappropriate. We would never tell them that, but we do tell ourselves that. So generating that self-compassion, what would we tell a friend who struggles to, what would we tell our child? Would we tell them like, yeah, it's about time. You go get your homework done now. Would we tell them that? Get out of bed and you have 2 more hours rather than wasting in rumination. Go get prepared for your exam. Would we tell them that? Never. So learning how to talk to what would we tell our friend, our, maybe our child? Could we begin to tell ourselves that? And our goal is not to really engage with disputing thoughts, or challenging them. Our primary goal is to learn how to turn that rumination off. So, Rhonda, on this note, I have one more powerful strategy that I introduce to you, and it's called externalization of voices. It is another role-playing technique that allows to actually recognize this cognitive thinking and rumination, what it does, and learn how to talk back to the voice. Learn how to talk back to that voice and actually ask it to take a hike for the night. So, in other words, it helps us to get in charge of the brain on a gut level, like not just on a it's nice to talk to a brain like you would talk to yourself as you talk to a friend, but this one kind of creates an internal change on a deeper level. So in this, I'll explain to you a little bit more. And so in this role-playing technique, we will both play you. But different parts of you. So I would be playing the role of your night thoughts, of your rumination. So of your subconscious mind saying, Rhonda, I think it's important that we stay up and talk more about your report, and maybe even get out of bed and prepare for it as you're thinking about right now. And you have plenty of time that you're not going to look bad in front of your supervisor. And you will play the role of your rational thoughts and talk back to me. Talk back to me. And your goal, again, is not to dispute or challenge what I'm saying, but rather ultimately talk to the voice itself and ask that voice to take a hike in the night. So here's a few things how you can do that. So you can use a little bit of acceptance based on positive reframing, on simply acknowledging what the brain is doing, and it's important. So accept some things about your rumination that are good parts. Yes, your brain is reminding you about your standards, how much you care, and so on. But you can also use a little bit of self-defense and reject some things, reject the idea that's maybe not the best idea to talk about it at 2 a.m. So remember, our goal is not to dispute or challenge thoughts, but rather talk back to the voice itself. Or we can simply use the counterattack and say, okay, I am done talking about this right now, and it's been exhausting and draining, and just take a hike. I'm not engaging, I'm just not discussing this any longer. Or you can use a combination of 3 tools. And I'm going to ask you, who won? You or me? And we're both playing you. So would you be willing to try something like this?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. So let's just maybe clarify. So who am I playing here?
You're me. You're playing Rhonda.
Yeah. And which part of you?
And you're the ruminating thoughts.
Great. And who are you playing?
I'm playing Rhonda. I'm talking back to the ruminating thoughts.
Okay, great. So if you'll get stuck, I can show you how to deal with it. But our main focus is to turn off the voice, right? To ask the voice to take a hike. So now, are you ready to jump in?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm your night voice. I am your rumination voice, and it's 2:00 in the morning, and I'm going to say, Rhonda, it's 2:00, and you know what I thought? I think I am thinking about this report that you haven't completed, and I think it's a good time to talk about it right now since you have time, and maybe even get out of bed and do it. And you can go ahead and respond.
It's actually not a good time to think or talk about the report right now, because there's nothing I can do right now except be uncomfortable and miserable and punish myself. So and I'm too tired to get out of bed and actually work on it. So that's really a kind of a dumb, mean idea. So it just, that's what I'm going to say. It's just really not a good time to think about it.
Well, and who won?
I won.
Big or small?
Kind of big.
Yeah, big.
But
Okay.
not huge, not any
Not
bigger.
huge.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want to try again, or do you want to roll reverse?
Let's do a role reverse.
Okay. So what I liked about your response, you used self-defense. Like, it's just not a good idea. It's kind of dumb, and all I do is punch myself. So I'm going to see if I can demonstrate a little bit of self-acceptance and counterattack. That'd be okay?
Sure.
Okay. So now let's switch, and you're going to be playing the role of rumination, and I'm going to play the role of your cognitive thoughts.
Okay. So, Rhonda, it's 2 a.m. and you did not complete your report. So it's time to think about it. Think about everything that you need to do, or you could get out of bed and start working on it.
Okay. Well, you know what? You're right. I haven't completed my report, and I do recognize that I do care about it. It is truly important to me, but I don't think it's really a good idea to do this at 2 o'clock in the morning, because I truly can't really accomplish anything right now. All I will do is just to punish myself, and I'm not willing to engage. So how about you, brain, take a hike and take a hike for the night and come back tomorrow at 8 and remind me about my report.
Yeah, that was a huge win. That felt a lot better.
Win? All right. Well, if that was a huge win, how about we'll switch one more time and you play the role of this cognitive, of your cognitive or conscious brain to turn off that subconscious rumination. Would you be willing to try?
Sure.
All right, Rhonda. Well, Rhonda, it's 2 o'clock. You have plenty of time. Come on now. How about you think about finishing up your report, or possibly get out of bed and work on it?
Well, I really appreciate and admire how much you want to get this report done. And it's awesome that you want to do a really great job at it. I really appreciate that about you. This isn't a best time to think about it or work on it because it's 2 a.m. The best time would be when you get to work at 9, like wake up at a reasonable time. So I'm going to say, brain, just take a hike and go into a dark cave, and I can rest and leave me alone right now so that I can fall back to sleep, put the report aside until it's appropriate time to work on it.
Great. Who won?
I think I won that.
Big or small?
Big.
Yeah, big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. Great. So what do you think made it? Can I hit you with one more?
Sure. Absolutely.
Well, Rhonda, I think it's a good idea that, I can come back tomorrow, but I think that, I'm just worried that it may damage your relationship with your supervisor because you haven't finished the report. And your goal is just remind you, your goal is not to defeat or challenge or debate. Your goal is to ask the brain to take a hike right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, it is really true that my relationship with my supervisor is very important to me. And we've always had a good relationship. I think that in some ways he admires the work I've done for the company. And I want that admiration to continue.
That's great. Excellent acceptance. So now how about self-defense and counterattack?
And so my supervisor won't be admiring me at 2 a.m. He's probably asleep, not even thinking about me right now. And
you could give him a call.
I should give him a call. I'm thinking about the report. What are you thinking about? So I haven't actually missed the deadline. I'm just worrying about missing the deadline. So if I get a good night's sleep, then I will be better able to work on the report and get it finished by the deadline. So why don't you take a hike, ruminating thoughts, and let me get a good night's sleep so that I can rejuvenate and feel refreshed and work on the report.
Who won?
I won.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
That was huger, more huge.
Yeah. Right. Well, and stepping out of the role play, how was it like for you, Rhonda?
It actually was not easy. It was hard. It was challenging.
Yes. And it's something because we're not used to. We're not used to acknowledging because we judge ourselves so much, right? And for that thinking. But our goal is just acknowledge what the brain is doing, give it a noble intent, and say, come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not right now. That's the concept. And then I like to suggest one more strategy because, and it also comes from Dr. Burns training, and I actually presented for therapists in the exposure training, in a 12-week training, and it's called distraction practice, which is it goes really good with exposing yourself to those thoughts, but breaking down a little bit the belief that we can't actually face the rumination without losing ourselves or without those thoughts going wild and not be able to sleep at all. So it's we can use.
And you call this distraction practice, or what is the name of it? It's an exposure technique, but you gave it a name. I didn't get it.
Distraction practice, yeah.
Oh, distraction.
Yeah, distraction. Okay. So that's from the classic exposure technique. So it just helps us to take a break when we are terrified, exposing or talking to our thoughts in the night. And I find it powerful. It gives people a little bit of power to address their thoughts and then quickly distract themselves from them without engaging them when they ask their brain to take a hike for the night. We know that we can't just use that by itself in the night, because then it will just actually energize our system and increase the rumination. So we can't use it in isolation, but I find the combination of external double standard, paradoxical double standard, what we have demonstrated, as well as externalization of that rumination voice, and then using and topping it up with distraction practice can aid significantly in taking control of that brain and turning it off. So the idea behind distraction practice, again, just give your brain a break, give it a little bit of rest while you looked at them. So we don't want to use it in isolation, because then it becomes that behavior that will energize the rumination. So how can we use the distraction practice? So you have few options I like to present to my clients, and you can distract simply to your breath. You can distract your attention from your thoughts to your breath and just observe it and follow it back and forth. You can distract it to your muscle tension, see how your muscles are doing. Are they tense, relax? You can distract it to your pillow, to your bed, to the comfort of your blanket, because we don't want to distract it. And one thing we don't want to distract it is we don't want to distract it to watching TV, because that is going to set off a bigger problem, which is, again, we suppress the thoughts and you may sleep for a few hours, but then at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3, the subconscious will knock on the conscious and say, hey, we have a few things to discuss and we haven't finished the business. So how about we'll do it now? So we only want to distract to something that's actually pleasant. And our ultimate goal is to learn how to train the brain to sleep through addressing and learning to lay it off for the night. So if you can think of, let's say, imagine you have told yourself that, it's best if you kind of just lay it off with paradoxical double standard. Then you said, okay, brain, this is enough. We're not talking about it anymore. Take a hike, come back tomorrow. And then what if you right now can just distract from your thoughts and just follow your breath? See how that works. Just observe it going in and out. Okay, then you can distract it to your muscles. See, are you relaxed? And specifically in the night, we definitely want to make sure that we are actually all the muscles are relaxed. And if not, just move them a little bit and let all the tension go.
Okay. So like tighten the muscle and then relax it.
No, just observe them. Are they tight? No, loose. Just make sure that all the tension out of your body is gone.
Okay.
Then distract your attention again. If the thoughts come back, you just simply acknowledge them and just like distract from them to the pillow. Is your pillow comfortable? Like make sure
Yes.
laying, make sure your head is comfortably laying. How about your blankets? You can distract your attention from your thoughts in the moment to your blankets. Are they
Okay.
comfortable? Are you warm? Are you cold? Make yourself comfortable. So that's what distraction would be. So helping to aid or take that, allowing the brain to actually take the hike for the night, we can begin to slightly distract. And then there's one more tool I would love to offer you is the technique called image substitution.
Okay.
I find it's also in the category of exposure to cognitive exposure techniques developed by Dr. Burns. And it's designed to help almost a little bit restructure the mental processes specifically related to rumination. And when we use image substitution, we can substitute more positive or peaceful image for the busy mind or frightening mind, like in the same way that the movie director would modify a scene in a film. So, for example, when it comes to sleeping, and you see the busyness of mind, what if you could, in the moment when you find that your mind still hasn't settled down and there's still a little bit left there, what if you take yourself to a place, a serene place where it's quiet and peaceful? It may be the beach, the forest, a place in nature. Maybe it can be a bench on a backyard, on your deck. And
Okay.
just substitute, as soon as you feel the busyness of mind, you can substitute that for whatever serene place that you have
Okay.
in mind. I find that if you're frightened, sometimes in the night, if you're worried, let's say about your supervisor, an idea can be you can envision the times when they showed admiration for you. And then you can just lay it off and take yourself into the place of calm, peace, or just envision yourself being in the shower for a few seconds where you feel calm, if that's refreshing. You can I'll give you some ideas that commonly people share, and we can generate your own, but you can also envision yourself sometimes. Some clients like to envision themselves like on the clouds instead of being in the bed, like floating.
Nice.
Some people like to envision uncomfortable. It's the Cinderella concept. Remember, the Cinderella was really never in the attic. She was always living in the castle in the eye of her mind. It's the same idea. So creating the place of where you want to be. And that's what the image substitute. And it helps you relax and accept the thing that your brain is doing and just take that attention away. My daughter personally said, Mom, I like to envision myself like a magnet. And I thought, what a beautiful technique, because it's, the magnetize, it's the best grounding technique that exists. So she created that visual for herself that when she's laying, she's becoming a magnet and she magnetized to the earth. And it make her feel a little heavier. So you can envision one of those things. When we are talking, is there any idea that would be comfortable for you? Or maybe you have your own idea that's coming up for you right now that you can.
I like to float on warm water in the ocean.
There you go. So
Like on a raft.
Great. So as we have practiced these techniques, what I would encourage you to do at home is to, when those thoughts will come for you in the night, you can again acknowledge what is your mind, label the category, what is your mind thinking, really thinking about it. Well, as you have labeled it, the thought is your mind was working a report. And then We want to see that noble intent behind it. I care about it. I have high standard, and my relationship with supervisor is important. And then you can look at the time. Is now the good time to think about it? Well, if not, then what would you tell your dearest friend if they would be concerned about their report at 2 a.m? And then you can use the combination of acknowledging the thoughts, validating them, validating the noble intent, but having that personal boundary of 2 o'clock, self-defense, not as good of an option. How about you take a hike for the night as a counterattack? I am done talking to you right now. And then you will distract yourself to the breath. And if the thoughts come back, you can just repeat that again. I already have mentioned we're not talking about it anymore. You got to be firm. You're going to be firm, and you got to repeat it. And in the beginning, you might have to repeat it up to 100 times. I remember when I started practicing this technique, I think I had to say 80 times. I even counted it, and I was prepared. But next day, I said about 40, and I literally recorded how much I had to say that. And then by the end of the week, it was less and less. And right now, I only have to say it once or twice, and I'm asleep. And I come from the background of tossing and turning and trying to survive on 4 hours of sleep. So,
well, Marina, you've given us so much information, the psychoeducation that you do, the theory of sleep and insomnia, brain functioning, and then you walked me through these various techniques. I really, really appreciate how you have turned the TEAM-CBT model into a structure for helping people with insomnia. It's such a creative use of TEAM-CBT.
Yes, thank you so much for today. So to put it into a simple framework, I'm probably less sanguine about brainism, which is describing brain function so as to impress people without really having a knowledge of the brain. I know that's in vogue these days, but I thought where you were really brilliant was to present a simple and effective structure for helping people with insomnia, and it's to simplify it a lot, because I generally function at the fourth grade level. And I thought your demonstration of techniques was really good. Just to think about a simple tool, the daily mood log, and the upsetting event would be lying in bed, ruminating or angry about my relationship or whatever, and having trouble sleeping. And then, what are your emotions? How depressed are you from 0 to 100? How anxious are you? Fill out that daily mood log on paper. How guilty or ashamed are you? How inadequate? How lonely? How discouraged? How frustrated? How angry? And so forth. And then of course, if you're a therapist, then you would want to start with empathy, and don't move on until you get an A in empathy from the patient. Say, what's my grade? How am I doing in terms of understanding how you're thinking, how you're feeling, and creating a sense of self-acceptance and caring and warmth. And then once you've done that E phase of your session, you go on to the A, the paradoxical agenda setting or assessment of resistance, and you use the magic button example. If you could press a magic button and all these negative thoughts and feelings would disappear and you'd fall right asleep, would you press that button? And everyone's going to say yes. And then you can get into the paradox. We don't have a magic button, but we've got a lot of great techniques, and we could certainly use those techniques. But I'm not sure it would be such a good idea to make all these negative thoughts and feelings disappear. Well, why not, doctor? I can't sleep. That's why I can't sleep. Get rid of those thoughts for me. And then you can do positive reframing. What do these thoughts and feelings show about you that's positive and awesome? How are these negative thoughts and feelings helpful to you? And you can generally easily come up with a list of 10 or 15 really beautiful things about the person. You care about your relationship. You care about your job. You have high standards on, et cetera, et cetera. And then maybe instead of that magic button, we could compromise, to use your language, Marina, and dial it down. What would be a lower level that would allow you to keep all these beautiful characteristics and yet feel more relaxed and not so agitated, and maybe give you a better shot at falling asleep? And maybe instead of 90% anxiety, 15% would be a goal to shoot for, that type of thing. And then once you're done with that, then you can go on to M equals methods and use some which negative thought do you want to work on first, and then you can attack that one negative thought and eventually all the negative thoughts. And you did a beautiful job with the paradoxical double standard technique, which is one of the easiest techniques to learn if you're a therapist, and also if you're a general public person. How would you talk to a dear friend in the middle of the night? Would you say these things to him or her? And then the externalization of voices is the second technique. And then the third technique is, self-hypnosis and all of its multiple synonyms. It gets sold and has been sold for decades under multiple names. Some people call it meditation. Some people call it self-hypnosis. Some people call it relaxation training. But using your mind to do positive imaging rather than rumination on your boss firing you or whatever, mental images are going through your brain that are agitating you. And in general, I think it's an absolute fact that approach will help people reduce their negative feelings. We've seen that in all the beta tests with the app, and we've all seen that in our clinical practices. So it does work. And once you're and there are many other techniques than those three, but once you're not beating up on yourself so much and agitating yourself so much, then the sleep can come far more easily. And so I don't know if I caught all the high points, but I think those were some of the strongest ones, and I thought you presented them and demonstrated them in a beautiful and elegant way. And thank you for that.
Thank you. Beautiful review. Thank you.
Okay, well, Marina, we've been talking for about an hour and a half. I think that's the length of time that we want to end. So I just, again, want to really thank you. And you obviously have developed into an incredibly strong TEAM-CBT therapist. And it's just been such a pleasure listening to you and seeing your evolution from being a level 1 newbie to being the therapist that you are today.
Thank you, Rhonda. Appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you, Dr.
Have
Burns.
a good night's sleep tonight.
Yeah.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.